Hi, Anne. This assignment too looks very nice. The interval is great and it's also dramatic. Um, all colors that are meant to match do. Now, on to assignment 3. Transparency looks good. I like the weaving effect you're getting. For instance, the yellow seems to be going over a couple of the vertical bars and under that pink one on the left. Here, maybe spacing could be a little more particular. The gaps between the horizontal bars might be more regular. In part 2, things look good, and you certainly are getting depth by virtue of color and also value. I wonder whether things would be better off if the rectangles were all centered precisely within one another, or on the other hand, if they were obviously off. If you have near symmetry, sometimes it looks like things are a little out of control, so I'd say go for symmetry or something that's obviously not symmetrical. I like your vibration solution. I'm not sure that those colors are same in value, but that can be hard to achieve. Hi, Christy, taking a look at assignment 2. Well, this is quite nice. All colors that are meant to match do, and your interval is good as well. However, I don't see influence of red in the areas of overlap. All of those areas of overlap test to be from the same color picker field, a sort of blue-violet. Now, on to assignment 3. Transparency looks good. This is a kind of casual design idea. Depth is working okay too, and vibration is an eye zapper, and I think that's not just because of the vibration effect, but because there's a certain intensity to this design, the way you've arranged it. It does have a casual look, but there's so much to look at there that it's interesting. Your colors are pretty saturated. The yellow could be even more saturated, and maybe they could match a little more in terms of value, but that is a hard thing to juggle. Hi, Brandy. I took a close look at this assignment 2 of yours, and it really is quite nice. Everything is clean and crisp, and the colors match where they're meant to. The interval is pretty good. The only thing I would say is, on right, the area of overlap might be darker in value. Hi, Barbara. Taking a look at your assignment 2. Well, I like the interval, and it seems as though you built this from scratch. I think that your right vertical bar has a slightly different set of RGB values from the others. Now, looking at transparency, you really did make some changes to this file, and it seems quite interesting. Apparently, you've alternated the positions over and under for some of the shapes, and that's a fascinating matter. Now, just now I was trying to call up your version of the file, and it's hard for me to do that because you're not using the naming system as it's been laid out. If your initials are first in the front of your file, I can just find that on my computer in a jiffy. You're not the only one, and I know artists aren't always the best at organizing, but it would help. Alright, now on to depth. Quite nice. You'll see I made a suggestion on this one in drafts. And I do see that with vibration, you sort of took a suggestion and ran with it. I think that makes a complex, interesting composition. And your colors are saturated. Curiously, the values don't match as well as one might imagine they would, given the way they look in full color. Hi, Susie, taking a look at your assignment 2. Well, this is pretty good, and I think you've got the concept. I do notice that the RGB values for your verticals are not all the same. Your interval looks okay, but let's take a look at the hue in the area of overlap on the left. It might be that that looks a little greenish. Now, I'll grant you sometimes with digital color we get colors that are not entirely expected, but I'm not sure where yellow would come in there. Now, transparency looks okay. However, like a couple students in my other class, you are guilty of not using rectangles. Depth, I see you have the idea, given overlap and use of the darker colors for the letters meant to be seen toward the rear. In vibration, good job of getting same values. Hi, Alicia. You know, your assignment 2 looks very good. It's quite accurate. It might be that the interval is subtle, but it does seem smooth. Looking at assignment 3, transparency is probably the nicest of the designs you have here. It's a casual approach, but there's a lot to look at, and transparency does come through as a theme. With depth, well, you know, the left half of your design is working a little more successfully. Notice that it's hard to make things seem to recede if they are light, particularly if your backdrop is dark. Vibration, you know, your set of colors is almost the same as Susie's, yet her work tests to be more balanced in terms of value. That's kind of surprising. You do have a warm and a cool, and your colors are fully saturated. What Susie did was she desaturated the blue a little bit to match the values better. But this is an okay job. Hello, Tricia. Taking a look at your assignment 2. You know, I think that's just about as perfect as it could be. Maybe the only little thing you could change is to make the backdrop centered, to crop it perhaps a little bit. With your assignments 3, well, things look very good. Among these, perhaps the best one is transparency, simply because it's surprising. It's nice to use white as a color. Usually white winds up being the backdrop. In depth, you have a nice idea here related to some that we've seen, but a little different too. Vibration works, however, it works better if the two colors are similar in value, and that can be hard to manage if you're working with a yellow or a yellow-orange. Hi, Carolyn. Taking a look at your assignment 2, you've got a tint of magenta and its color complement on the digital wheel, green, and that's giving us a neutral gray in your center area of overlap. Everything seems good here. The transition is smooth, and it's also dramatic. Looking at part 1 of assignment 3, well, the idea of transparency comes across, but golly, I wonder if you could give us something more specific in terms of the array of colors you use or the arrangement of the rectangles. And we do have a more specific kind of layout for the depth part. Now notice that if you want to create the illusion of depth, you'll want to have desaturated colors in the rear, and they probably ought to be dark too, so bear that in mind. The vibration design is quite attractive here. I like the sense of squished rectangles. As we move up, the rectangles become squeezed. I'd say use guides to lay something like this out. I noticed that the edges don't match up quite perfectly. Hi, Gabriella. I like your color selection for the assignment 2. All the colors match where they're meant to, and your interval is both even and dramatic. That green is sort of a seaweed green color. It's really quite nice. You know, when I took a look at your file, the one you posted, I saw some artifacts, and I'd say for presentation, try to get slightly better resolution. Maybe save on very high in Save for Web, for example. Looking at transparency, well, we get the idea here, but I feel like we could want for a design solution that's a little more exciting. With depth, well, we've seen a design like this before. It's a little different, and I enjoy the green. You certainly do have things receding with the darker, duller greens to the rear. I'm seeing little slivers of white here, and would suggest that you doctor that up before including this in a portfolio, for instance. With vibration, the solution is adequate.